After witnessing the struggle of her friend, she showed empathy by understanding and sharing her feelings. Sympathy by offering comfort and support. But her neighbor's apathy towards the situation left her feeling disappointed. Understanding how we relate to the emotions and experiences of others is very important for building meaningful connections and having compassion for others. So, in today's lesson, we are going to look at three different but interconnected terms: empathy, sympathy, and apathy. While we use these terms interchangeably most of the time, they represent different ways of responding to the feelings and situations of others. So let's look at each of these terms or words so that we can get a clearer understanding of their meaning and implications and in our interactions with others, and look at examples of how we can use them in everyday life. Welcome to today's lesson. My name is Xoliswa and this is English Speaking with Xoliswa. If it is your first time here, welcome. If not, welcome back. So, if you have not done so, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Also, if you have any questions or you have something to add, you can write it down below in the comment section. Let's get started. So our very first word that we are going to look at is empathy. Now, people do this every day without even realizing it. So you have empathy for your family or your friends, but sometimes people don't know the term for that action. So empathy refers to the ability for one person to understand and share the feelings of another person. So this involves you putting yourself in someone else's shoes and experiencing their emotions from their perspective. So you want to try and understand how they're feeling. So you put yourself in their shoes. So you try to understand how they're feeling from their point of view or from their perspective. So, for example number one, when Sarah lost her beloved pet, her friend showed empathy by comforting her and sharing stories of her own experiences with loss. So, for example, in this case, Sarah has lost her pet. So her friend, because she has been through a similar situation or she has also experienced loss, she uses her own experiences to try and understand how Sarah is feeling. So she shares her own story so that Sarah knows that she's not alone, that she understands how she is feeling. So she is using her own experience to put herself in Sarah's shoes and understand where her pain or her grief is coming from. Example number two. As a therapist, Mark demonstrates empathy by actively listening to his clients' concerns and validating their emotions without judgment. So Mark is a therapist. So in order for him to show empathy to his clients, he has to listen to them, to listen to their concerns, what they're feeling, even if it's small, or even if it's something that maybe other people might not see it in that way, but his job as a therapist is to validate their emotions and not judge them. So put himself in their shoes and try to understand why they're feeling this way or why they see it this way, and so that he can find effective ways to help them. So he's not showing any judgment, but he's trying to understand where they're coming from. Our second term is sympathy. Now we are going to look at sympathy and see some of the differences between sympathy and empathy. So sympathy, it involves you acknowledging and expressing concern for someone else's suffering or hardship. It's feeling of compassion or sorrow for another person's situation, but without necessarily experiencing the same emotions. So unlike empathy, with sympathy, you don't try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. So for you, you just feel sorry for them. Now we are going to look at 2 examples. Example number 1. Upon hearing about her friend's illness, John offered sympathy by sending flowers and a heartfelt card expressing his support. So John heard that his friend was ill. So what did he do? He sent the friend flowers. He did not try to say, oh, I understand how you feel. I was also sick or something like that. He just sent flowers to show his support, to show his sympathy that I understand what you're going through. I support you. I hope you get well soon. So he showed his support and sympathy. So unlike empathy, he did not try to put himself in the person's shoes, because who knows, John might have never been ill, or maybe severely ill as his friend is. Example number 2. The community showed sympathy for the victims of the natural disaster by organizing fundraisers and donating essential supplies. So what did the community do? They showed their sympathy by trying to get the survivors help. So they donated essential supplies, and also they started a fundraiser, right? So maybe they have not been through the same situation. They have never been through a natural disaster. And so they can show sympathy, but they cannot be empathetic because they cannot fully put themselves in the victim's shoes. Now, let us look at apathy. So we have looked at two terms already. So empathy is trying to understand the person's situation and putting yourself in their shoes. Sympathy is showing your support and feeling sad, sorry for the other person, but not necessarily putting yourself in their shoes. Now, apathy is the lack of interest. So it is completely the opposite of the two words of empathy and sympathy. So apathy is the lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern about something. So it's a state of indifference, so it doesn't matter to you. Or emotional detachment, so you don't attach any feelings whatsoever. Often characterized by lack of motivation to engage or react. So the first two terms, what do they tell us? They tell us that the people, they feel sorry for the person who's going through something. So their instinct is to help them, or is to try and understand what they're going through. But what does apathy tell us? It tells us, I don't really care. As long as it doesn't involve me, I don't want to emotionally attach myself to the situation. Let's look at examples. Example number 1. Despite the urgent need for social change, some people exhibit apathy towards political issues and choose not to participate in voting or activism. So what does that mean? It means even though people see what society is going through, even though they see the need for social change, but they're like, it's not really my problem. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to do anything to help this situation. So it's like they're, distancing themselves from these political issues, and they don't want to do anything to help solve the situation. Example number 2. The teacher was disappointed by the students' apathy towards their studies, as they showed little interest or effort in completing assignments or participating in class discussions. So, students in this case, they don't care about their assignments. They don't even want to participate in class discussions, meaning they might not even worry about how they score in their exams or in their tests. So they have distanced themselves from their studies. So just to close this off, just to kind of put this together into a little box, in summary, empathy involves understanding and sharing others' feelings and putting yourself in another person's shoes. Sympathy involves expressing concern or compassion for someone's suffering. So you feel sorry for someone, you see what they're going through, and you feel sorry for them. And apathy refers to the lack of interest or emotional detachment. So it means, well, you are not interested in what is happening or what you need to do, and you do not attach any feelings to that. Now, before we end this discussion, I want to do a small exercise, just to kind of see if everyone is on the same page, if everyone fully understands how these words are different, and if they're going to be able to use them in their everyday conversation. So, we are going to fill in the blanks with the correct word. Question number 1. When Sarah's friend lost her job, she showed by listening to her and offering support. When Sarah's friend lost her job, she showed by listening to her and offering support. So, if you got empathy, you are correct. So Sarah listened and tried to understand what her friend was going through and then offered her support. Number 2. Despite feeling for his colleague's situation, Tom couldn't fully understand what he was going through. Despite feeling for his colleague's situation, Tom couldn't fully understand what he was going through. If your answer was sympathy, then you are correct. So despite feeling sympathy for his colleague's situation, Tom couldn't fully understand what he was going through. So unlike empathy, Tom couldn't understand what his friend was going through. Next question. John's towards social issues often made him appear indifferent to the struggle of others. If your answer was apathy, you are correct. John's apathy towards social issues often made him appear indifferent to the struggles of others. Last question. The counselor demonstrated towards the students, understanding their feelings without judgment. If your answer was empathy, you are correct. The counselor demonstrated empathy towards the students, understanding their feelings without judgment. Thank you for watching. That's it for today. If you have any questions, leave it down below. If you would like to add something, you can also leave it down below. I will see you next time. Goodbye.